where we'll be introducing our SEAI Sustainable Energy Communities Program. So the speaker for today is Susan Richardson. Susan is a program manager with the Sustainable Energy Communities Program. And my name's Claire Lombard, and I work with Susan in the team, and I focus on the plan stage of the program. So I help out with grant administration and grant development. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. This event is being recorded, so if some people do miss out, we will be sending the recording out to everybody. All attendees are muted with the cameras switched off. You can submit your questions by clicking on the Q&A icon in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the event, and the recording will be distributed after the event, and an FAQ will be created and shared for all of the questions that you submit today. Okay, thank you. I will now pass you over to Susan Richardson.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks for everybody who's joining us this morning. So I'm going to give an overview of the Sustainable Energy Communities Programme I'm going to touch in on as well the community enabling framework for renewable energy projects. We'll just demonstrate a couple of community case studies. Also, I'm going to have a few slides on the schools programme, and then, as Claire mentioned, we'll have a Q&A at the end if we have time, which we should be able to do. So first and foremost, meeting our team. So myself, Susan Richardson, I'm the programme manager. You've been introduced to Claire there previously, and we also have Avril and Ailish. Avril focusing in on the learn stage of the SEC journey, and Ailish on the do stage alongside Claire, who works on the plan stage. So we have a full team in place, which is a great thing. So we're really eager to get involved and support local authority actions where we can through our communities. We also have Ruth Buggy, who I think many of you may be familiar with, who was the founder of the community or the Sustainable Energy Communities Programme. She's currently working on a community energy strategy across SEAI and also manages the schools team alongside Magdalene Hayden and Eva Cannon. Just first and foremost, what is a sustainable energy community? I know there's probably people on the call who are quite familiar with the programme and may have worked with some of the SECs already. And there's also people who maybe aren't as familiar with the programme. So I'm going to kind of really go back to explaining what the Sustainable Energy Community Programme is and work through our plan, learn, plan, do journey across it. But first and foremost, it's a community that works together to develop a sustainable energy system for the benefit of the community. And really what that community looks like, can be quite varied across the country. It can be small as a street or even a multi-unit development. It could be as large as a county or a region. So we've got a huge range of different types of SECs within our network. Without doubt, the majority are kind of either urban or rural community groups, but we also have those who are kind of communities of interest, where it's maybe dairy farmers who are coming together to look at their energy usage. We have group water schemes. We have enterprise hubs. So there's a huge range of different types of communities that can be supported through this program as well. And the premise is always the same. It's aiming to be as energy efficient as possible, using renewable energy where feasible, and considering smart energy solutions. So the benefits, and I know all of you are working in the climate action space, so you're probably very aware of this, but the benefits are huge in terms of changing our energy use. There's a huge impact for the environment. There's a huge impact in terms of communities for reducing costs, and this then can free up costs, whether it's within a home or within a community building, free up those costs to be invested in other community initiatives as well. So if you can get those energy spends down. And I think one of the things that we in SEAI also hear a lot of is in terms of the quality of life, in terms of the air quality, there's a huge benefit for the sort of measures to be, that those benefits to be recognised as well. So as it stands, we have over 800 sustainable energy communities throughout the country. The programme was initially started in 2015. And with the Climate Action Plan, we have a target of 1,500 communities to be reached by 2030. So we're well on our way to doing that, and we estimate about 40,000 citizens have been engaged through this programme, and we've around 133 energy master plans that have been completed, with a further 81 communities that are currently, at various points within the process of doing that, completing their energy master plans. And as you can see, in terms of the programme itself, we're broken down into 4 regions throughout the country. And we manage the SECs through those regions and through some partners within those regions. While we have a target to hit 1,500 by 2030, our focus at the moment is really more so in terms of supporting the communities that are in the network, that are joining the network, and really making sure that they're getting as much support that they need in order to help them to really progress their SEC in terms of the goals and ambitions that they have for it. If we break it down by county level, and I recognise this is not a local authority level, so you can see that the 3 Dublin local authorities are together. Galway is included as one as well, but there's a great range and there's a great coverage of SECs all across the country. So, we see that constantly, that, we're getting a good kind of coverage across every single county in Ireland, which is great to see. So this is our journey. It's a learn, plan, do approach that we have. I'm going to start off on the learn phase, but what we try and do is bring communities within to the network, and then they can move on to the plan stage and then the do stage, where they kind of implement and take action. And there's no set time scale that a community has to follow in terms of these 3 stages. We have communities that move very quickly out of learn and into plan, and we have communities that spend a considerable amount of time within learn, and they're very much focused on community engagement and things like that, and that's okay too. So, it really is dependent on what that community wants to do. And I think that's a key point about this programme, is that it's very much a community-led program. So, we have communities who want to focus on particular areas, and that's driven by that community and supported by ourselves and our mentors. So what happens on that learn phase is the first, I guess, the jumping off point or the starting point for an SEC is where a group of people come together and decide that they want to push ahead and form an SEC. And it's a really simple process. It's a matter of basically forming a group, and there's no legal obligation in terms of the formation of that group. It's a group of people that come together. We see many can be, subgroups of tidy towns or other different types of community organizations. It's an online application on our website. You just fill that in, and then it comes through to us, and it goes through an approvals process pretty quickly. They will hear back, generally speaking, that whether they have been successful, and what that will entail is they will receive an email from a mentor who works on our behalf throughout the county with the community groups. So again, it's a really simple process, and we kind of look to encourage as many different types of groups to join the network as possible. The mentor then will contact the SEC. We have a really great group of mentors. As I mentioned, we manage the programme through 4 regions. The Border West region is managed through ATU. We've got Mel, Gavin and Stevie Donnelly as our regional coordinators. And they have a really experienced team of mentors who then go out in their individual counties to work with the SECs who are based there. And they also do a little bit of work. They can also work with the community groups who are considering being an SEC. And many times that can be sometimes how an SEC is formed, where some of the community groups may have engagement with the mentor through other means, through other meetings and engagements that happen throughout communities all over the country. And they then decide that they want to come in the programme through that means as well. Again, that would then bring them to the website and fill in the form as per normal. So in the Midlands as well, we have ORS, our regional coordinators, Lawrence O'Reilly, and there's a subcontractor there through Southeast Energy Agency for the Southeast. And again, a really great experienced team there of people who are both technical and really versed in community engagement and local development as well. In Dublin and the Mid-East, it is Codema who manage that region. And so again, they have a great range of really experienced mentors who have a lot of experience in project development and community engagement. And then finally, it's the Ballyhora Development Company in the Southwest, managed through Catherine Smith and her team of mentors out there. And our mentors are really great. They're involved, I know, with a lot of different projects, not just the SEC. So, you know, they've got a real finger on the pulse in terms of what's going on in the communities. And I'm sure working with you all in various different guises as well. And I know they've been keenly kind of working with communities in terms of community climate action and any grant programs that are coming out that might be applicable to the SECs. And, you know, the key point around the learn stage that the mentor will work with the SEC is around just making the SEC, you know, get access to all of the resources and ideally engage with other SECs as much as possible. So that's a key factor for us, is that what we see is that SECs who've been in the network can really, you know, give a lot of good advice to new entrants into the network in terms of what's worked, more importantly, what hasn't worked. But we're doing a huge amount of development of new materials all the time to try and support the SECs, particularly as the network is growing all the time. And, you know, whereas in the early days, we would have had a lot more direct contact with individual SECs when there was maybe 50 or even 100 members within the network. But as that has grown to where it's at the stage of close to or just over 800 at the moment, that's more difficult for us to do. And as a result, we're really focusing in on kind of digital materials where possible. We're launching a Trello board for the SEC network membership. We have a monthly or newsletter that goes out. And then we also run awards every year through the SEAI Energy Awards platform. We also last year in particular ran 9 different webinars over the winter just around kind of energy usage. So, you know, the topics there you can see: home energy bill basics, keeping well and warm, a guide to heat pumps. You know, there was coverage, all different types of subjects that are relating to home energy and PVs, etc. For SECs, and those webinars are still up there on our SEC YouTube channel. So we encourage the network constantly to, you know, push that information out where possible and to, you know, refresh for any new members that come into the network as well. We also hosted last year a social media training for the SEC network. You know, by one of our colleagues in marketing communications, and that was really to just try and get the SEC network themselves to make sure that they're maximizing sort of their engagement with their community through Instagram, Twitter, etc. So, you know, that proved quite successful. We might look at running that again this year for any of the new SECs who join the network. We have a Facebook group which has proven really really great in terms of the engagement that's going on there between groups. And as I say, this peer-to-peer engagement is what we're really trying to encourage this year. Hopefully, most of you might have seen already that we have some library energy drop-in clinics that are taking place. I think the first one actually starting this evening, and they're running over the next coming weeks in February. We've worked with our colleagues in DEC and the Libraries Management Association as well around the development of these clinics. It's a pilot. We had 19 libraries who responded to an expression of interest. So they are the libraries who are hosting these events. And they will be, you know, as I say, taking place throughout the country over the next few weeks. Again, the details are on the website. You probably can't see that too clearly, but that's a list of all of the events that are taking place. They're taking place dependent on the request of the individual library. It's either an evening, afternoon, or morning event. And most of our mentors, as well as ourselves, will be attending those library events. And presenting and engaging with the attendees who hopefully show up on the day. And again, on the learn stage, a lot of it is about, you know, we keep materials up to date, and the communities can access those materials through their mentors whenever they need them for various different local events, whether it's an event that they themselves are running or whether it's just participation in other engagements that are taking place throughout the community. So that's really the most that we do on the learn phase. As you can see, as I mentioned already, it's actually, there's no determined timeline in terms of how long you stay within that phase. It's really about the community becoming kind of comfortable with the language around energy, and engaging as many people in their community, and trying to kind of create a strong committee within their SEC that will then enable them to move forward into the next 2 phases of the program. The next one is the plan phase. And again, this is really primarily around the creation and the development of a local energy master plan for a community. It's not something that communities have to do. I mean, we have communities who go from learn, and maybe they've identified very quickly a project that they want to engage with, and they can move quickly into do. But for the vast majority of communities, an energy master plan is a really good idea. What it is, it's a comprehensive review of how that community can achieve its energy goals. And in many ways, it really can kind of, focus the ambitions of the SEC committee in terms of what's achievable, what their aims are, and what they want to achieve as a community group within that particular community. It generally assesses the baseline energy usage of those areas that are important for the community. So it's always generally residential, commercial, community buildings, transport, and then if it's an agricultural area as well, that can be included as well. And we encourage as many energy audits to be taking place within the premise of the energy master plan. It's a great way to kind of prepare the community and have some buildings ready and assessed and ready to move as quickly as possible into a project within the do phase. That could be a BER assessment, it could be a home energy assessment through the one-stop shop process. And also it can be included with a support scheme for energy audit, the SEAI, apologies for all these acronyms, for commercial buildings. So that's a €2,000 voucher that we provide through our business team. And that can allow an audit on a commercial building within a community if it's identified within the energy master plan. That they want to include that. And particularly on the homes, the residential side of things, we really encourage, a typology of buildings to be included in the energy master plan. So if you look at an area overall, rather than having, 4 houses or 4 houses or within one estate, or 4 very similar houses that may have been built in, in a similar type of home built at a similar time, you sort of want maybe 4 or 5 different types of buildings, and that can then offer others in the community sort of a blueprint that, yeah, if you have this type of house, you're expecting that this would probably be the BER that you will get if you don't have one already, and therefore the measures that will need to be done in that home would be probably this, and it gives the general community a much better idea of the types of works and measures that could be carried out within their homes. And this really then overall allows the SEC to identify kind of the most cost kind of suitable and cost efficient improvements for their community. The 2 key outputs from the energy master plan process are a report carried out through a consultant and a register of opportunities. It is a consultant-led process. So what happens is the community can apply to ourselves for an energy master plan grant, which will be from €10,000 to €25,000. It's dependent on the energy spend within the community, and that energy spend will be calculated in conjunction with the mentor. They will assist the SEC in that preparation of the application form. The Energy Master Plan grant itself is valid for 12 months, and that then allows the community to go and put a request for quotation to a number of consultants who can then carry out the work and create some surveys, work with the community, and then generate the report and organise BER assessments, etc. All of the work that goes along with the EMP process. The funding should cover 100% of the Energy Master Plan process. So dependent on the grant level that is there. And, at the moment, the €10,000 grant is a level 1, is really for a multi-unit development, for example. The majority of grants that are coming through to us on application at the moment are in the range of 20,000. 15,000 for a smaller street level, but generally speaking, it's any grant or any energy spend over 2 million will now qualify for a 20,000 grant. The grant is retrospectively paid after the work has been completed, Again, as I mentioned, the mentor will work with the community to make that application, and that process can take about 1 to 2 months. It's definitely something that the community needs to put a lot of thought into in terms of their ambitions. It requires a community charter to be completed, and it requires that substantial and reasonable amount of kind of community engagement work has already been done, because there's no doubt it is can be quite an onerous task, and you want a committee that are sort of understanding that there is quite a bit to be done in this process, particularly engaging with the consultant, and also engaging with the community. So it's something that needs the whole committee approach, where you have at least 5 people engaged and hopefully working on it, with one main point of contact with the consultant, for example. Now, one thing I mentioned there, the grant is retrospective, and one part that we have been kind of focusing in on and working hard on the last couple of years is working with yourselves in the local authority on a community bridge funding process, which has been proving really, really, beneficial for communities. We have 20 local authorities who are signed up to that. And what that means is the local authorities can offer the finance that can pay the consultant directly, whether it's the first milestone payment, maybe halfway through the process, and then the second payment at the end of the process. And so the consultant can be paid. It means there's no financial risk for the community. And then we will recoup the funding to the local authority once the Energy Master Plan has been finalised. So, we're really grateful for this partnership. It's proving really beneficial to the communities. And, we're eager to sign up as many more local authorities as possible. Our latest one was Louth, which they're just starting to work through on their the first Energy Master Plan, I think, is coming through that shortly. So again, if there's any interest for any communities, any local authorities who haven't signed up yet, please do get in touch and we can send more details. In the plan phase, I think we'd said there's about 133. So again, a great spread across the country. There's a lot of EMP work being done at the moment. And just to point out as well, for the counties where, maybe there isn't as many EMPs, it doesn't indicate there's no activity. There's some counties where a lot of the SECs maybe, were in the learn phase and then identified projects and have actually gone on to develop projects themselves, or with the cooperation of project coordinators as well. So, there's different ways of going through that that SEC journey. And then on to the do plan. So the do phase is really where the community ideally takes their Energy Master Plan and implements action. So it's about, from our perspective in the SEC team, that's kind of where we start to literally, signpost communities to different grant schemes, whether it's in SEAI or further afield. So a first point of call maybe for the community to engage homeowners with the funding that's available through the home energy grant upgrade, whether it's the fully funded, whether people are, who qualify for the warmer home scheme. It's about engaging those people and making sure they're aware of what they could be entitled to. It's about getting communities then up to speed on whether they would, potentially be interested in going through the one-stop shop service, or just starting out with maybe attic and cavity wall insulation on the individual home energy upgrades. One of our key focuses is really about how we can make the community energy grant, more accessible to communities themselves. There is a lot of activity happening with this grant. It's a communities grant that provides capital funding, partnerships and technical support to assist energy efficiency in community projects. And that means it's, a combination. It's commercial, it's residential buildings and community buildings kind of bundled into one project through the identification of our project coordinators who are listed on our website. There are a lot of SECs who are involved in these projects, but we haven't had success yet really in having some SECs who are leading those projects. And that's sort of where our focus is, in the coming year, in terms of how we can support communities and if there's any additional support measures that we can make within SEAI to kind of bridge that gap. And allow sustainable energy communities to lead on some of these projects that are identified within their Energy Master Plan. So, we're pushing communities, and it's where we see a huge amount of potential for collaboration with yourselves and making sure that you're aware that there are 130 EMPs potentially there with projects ready to go, and we're trying to let our SECs know of community groups who have managed to do some projects by combining funding sources where possible. And a good example of that would be the Yard Hub SEC, one of our shortlisted awards, community award winners in the Energy Awards this year. So the Yard Hub have combined funding through DRCD, the Just Transition Fund, Longford County Council and Waterways Ireland to create a really beautiful community building with a kind of a community hub that is in place now within their community. And another area to look at as well is community benefit funds. That's something we're trying to encourage our SECs who are close by to and within that range of the community benefit fund of projects through the Res 1 and Res 2. And to encourage, community groups to look where they can. And I know they're all working extremely hard to try and access funding sources where possible. And that kind of brings on to the community enabled framework, and it's one thing we kind of wanted to mention. We work very closely with our colleagues in the RES team as well, so Gillian and Maeve, who are managing our community enabling framework. And what that is, and I'm not sure if some of you probably are already aware of it, but it's a framework that's supporting communities to develop grid scale greenfield renewable electricity projects. And this encompasses projects kind of up to 6 megawatts in scale. And what we offer is guidance at all stages of the project development. And this framework was put in place originally to support that community category within the Renewable Electricity Support Scheme. But with the changes that have come through that scheme, the supports will now transfer to the Small Scale Renewable Electricity Scheme, or SRES, and that is expected to launch properly in Q2 of 2024. So these sort of enabling framework supports will transfer across to that. And it's a similar type of scheme. It's basically allowing communities and also local authorities, and this is where we'd be very interested in speaking with yourselves in terms of any potential local authorities who are looking to develop renewable electricity projects. So, a local authority can, on its own right, form what they call a renewable electricity community and develop a project on potentially, whatever, maybe it's local authority owned land that is available. But even, very interestingly for ourselves as well, is where the local authority and the community can partner, as we have a huge amount of SECs who are very interested in looking at how they can develop community-owned or community partnered, let's say, renewable electricity projects with the local authority. So the supports that we have available include really detailed, really excellent toolkits that are available on our website. There's 9 guides that have already been published, kind of in terms of every aspect of renewable electricity project development. It's a really comprehensive overview of kind of all that is required. On top of that, then the second stage is guidance in all aspects of the development process. So there's a framework of companies there who can advise and help in that process in terms of the feasibility of the different sites, in terms of grid connection and planning, etc. And then finally, we have a grant of up to €180,000, which is for development costs. So there's a whole host of supports there for local authorities and communities if they're looking to develop renewable electricity projects going forward. And then really, I'm going to just kind of touch now on just some of our community case studies within the SEC program. So, we've got a huge amount of communities who have come through the program, and there's some who are there in the early days. We estimate we've got over 500 who are still in the Learn, who have come in or have been there for a number of years, and then we have looking at in terms of developing projects, we've also got a lot of communities that are doing absolutely amazing work with community engagement as well. And that for us is a really big focus this year is making sure that we're also recognizing the great work that's being done in terms of community engagement and behavior change activity as well within communities who are part of the program. So, for example, Fair Play Cafe have been carried actually out a number of projects through our community energy grant, installing, energy efficiency lighting on their premises, solar PV, and they completed their energy master plan. But they are really a hub, within their community in terms of, sustainability and energy efficiency. And likewise, Batterstown, I think a number of years ago, also kind of worked very closely with Meath County Council, and the home energy savings kits that were available and are still available in libraries to look at behaviour change within their community as well. We've got Mullingar SEC who are really engaged with and working hard to see how they can potentially install and develop a renewable electricity project within their area. So they're hoping, and their vision is to be zero carbon community by 2050, and they have a really dedicated team there working hard to try and get various different projects off the ground. And they set up as a cooperative as well recently. So, they're really pushing hard and working hard to get that over the line if they can. So that's great to see. I kind of mentioned at the beginning that we've got lots of different types of SECs, and one that we were really delighted to see install a great project is the Polecat Group Water Scheme, where their community group who've installed a 50 kilowatt solar PV system to reduce the cost of running the group water scheme. And we have subsequently then have been working with the national group Water Scheme Federation, and they're looking at doing a kind of an overall view of group water schemes, energy usage throughout the country and how that can be reduced, and that's currently going through their EMP process at the moment. So it's a good example of kind of that communities of common interest I mentioned, where it's not a traditional, let's say, geographical SEC, but at the same time can be really successful and really, kind of reap benefits from being a part of the program. Mulranny as well have been involved with the program for quite some time, and this is what they called an inclusive community response, of really focusing on tourism. So they identified what were the key points for their community, and basically focused in on those areas and looked at e-bikes and charging. So they have a great committee there, and are the decarbonising zone for Mayo as well. And then I'm going to just move on to the schools program. And I just wanted to take the opportunity today to just kind of bring this to your attention, because the SEAI schools program is, it's an education and youth program that's actually the longest running program, one of the longest running programs within SEAI, but it's probably not one of our well-known programs. And for ourselves in the SEC team, I think it's something that we want to see kind of cross over a little bit more with what we do, because at the end of the day, schools are all within our communities, and we want to try and encourage more younger people to kind of get involved with the community energy programs that are taking place, and try and get involved, whether it's with the SECs or other programs that are happening for young people within the community. What it is, it's a program that is basically established to inform and educate children about sustainable energy, and about how it's used as a part of the climate action plan as well. And so what that is we have a number of, it's run through An Taisce, and basically it's workshops primarily whereby schools can go on and request a workshop. It's in primary, secondary, I think it goes up to TY is the highest level that it goes to. So it's curriculum linked as well. It's facilitated workshops, and it's a really great program that's operating, I suppose, nearly in the background. As I mentioned, it's not something that's kind of front and center at SEAI, but we really would like to incorporate it more in what we do within the SEC program. There's great teaching resources available. There's books for children. There's some in Irish, there's in English, stickers and posters, and a fantastic team of facilitators who go around and present these workshops and within the communities all over Ireland. So there's, again, a big overlap, and it's just something that we kind of wanted to make yourselves aware of today. Again, you can just find out more on our website. It's very much focusing obviously on the Sustainable Development Goals. And we're teaming up and working with Eco-UNESCO this year as well and sponsoring the Young Environmentalist Award for the energy category in 2024. So we'll start to see a little bit more happening on that space this year for sure. And kind of just to finish up from my side, I just really wanted to, you know, reiterate again, like we've a lot going on within the SEC program. We're in communities all over the country. And I guess for ourselves, it's just trying to maybe see where there's other opportunities for collaboration with yourselves and the local authorities where possible. You know, we both have community enabling objectives in our programs, with our energy master plans, and then the register of opportunities, which is basically a list of usually up to around 10 projects that are, you know, are potentially projects for communities. There's an identified list of projects that are potentially there and ready, not necessarily shovel ready projects, but, you know, identified and ready for action to be taken with them. Obviously within SEAI, we also have the climate action plan, the dashboard that is available. And also it's worth, you know, focusing in on the fact that, you know, we think around 90% of the decarbonising zones are SECs. So there's a lot of support that we can potentially give, and we can overlap there. We have also with the the Community Energy Grant Programme, sometimes known as BEC, there are project exemplars in every community, you know, throughout Ireland. And the map I showed here, it's a similar one to our SEC network map, but it's the Community Energy Projects map. And you can go on there on our website and you can see where projects have taken place. And it can be worth for yourselves or other community groups to maybe get in touch and see, you know, if it's worth, can you visit those projects and just see how they took place. So, you know, there's definitely potential there. And for ourselves as well, it's really about how can we collaborate and raise awareness, maybe, you know, do workshop. It's about the grant programs through our SEC channels. And again, you know, there's so much activity happening in communities. So it's really around, you know, can we cooperate on events and any other things that, you know, might spring to mind. It would be great just if you can get in touch. Myself, to Claire, to Ailish, contact at sec@seai.ie, and we can answer any questions. I think for those of you who maybe have been in touch with us before, just drop us a line, give us a call. We're open to kind of any suggestions in terms of how we can support what you guys are doing in climate action within your local authorities. And that is it for me. So we're open for questions now if anybody has any.
Yeah, we have 3 questions at the moment, Susan. So one from Dean Eaton. So with new energy master plans going forward, looking at maybe aligning the aims of these with the aims and objectives of the council climate action plans, with a view for applying for the second round of funding.
Yeah, that would really make a lot of sense, and it's maybe something that we could, I don't know, have a chat about as well offline. And you know, we obviously can access all of when they're published, the climate action plan. So yeah, for sure we'd be open to that, because we are looking at the EMP itself at the moment, and you know, the process around it, and we're definitely open to, you know, making it as aligned or as seamless as possible for community groups to sort of move from that energy master plan phase into different grant and funding streams. So yeah, we're totally open to any suggestions there.
Yep, and a question from Kelly Slattery requesting